And we're good.
Hello, hello, everyone. This is the Sleeping Wendigo, and on this episode of Cryptid Logs, we will be doing things a little bit differently. This video will be in the form of a podcast, and with me today is Cryptic Chills HQ. Welcome, Cryptic.
Thank you for having me, Wendigo. Hi, guys. I'm Cryptic Chill. I am a narrator on YouTube. I specialize in more of your, true stories. I've done some cryptid stuff before, and I have done creepypastas before. But my main thing is for survivor and mental health advocacy and true stories. So I actually do have a background in cryptozoology, and that's why I'm here today.
It is very awesome to have you here with me as we go over the cryptid for today, which is the Black Eyed Children.
Yes. So
So,
I have
the.
I have some information on the black-eyed children. Sorry to cut you off, Wendigo, but I do have some
Oh,
information on the black-eyed children, and I also have a couple theories that I want to talk about a little bit later on in this episode. Um,
oh, that's fine. Theories are always welcome.
Let me just do that. That sounds a little better.
All right. So these well, you can't really say they're children. Whatever these things are, they seem to take on the form of children. So these creatures tend to look like children to pretty much get people to open their doors for them and allow them to go into their homes. For what purpose? This is mostly unknown, other than a couple of encounters that some people have let these things into their homes, and some very weird things have happened afterwards.
And very few people have ever let them into their homes and actually lived to tell the tale. Normally, it's just a bloodbath, or they disappear completely.
And they will try to get people in vehicles to open their cars as well and give them a drive. As far as I am aware from what I have done research into, no one has done this.
No, I can't say I have actually found any evidence of somebody letting them in their vehicle. We can only speculate whether or not this has happened, because given the fact that there have been some experiences where people have just disappeared after somebody seen children going into the house, we can only guess that maybe this has happened, but nobody's lived to tell the tale.
Yeah, there is a couple sightings of people. Well, there is a couple of stories. If these are true, I'm not entirely sure. Of people allowing them into their homes.
Yes.
Let me see if I can actually find the individuals who done this.
While you do that, I'm going to go over what I have in my book here. So, the black eyed children are commonly found hitchhiking, panhandling, or on the doorstep of residential homes. Normally, they are found in pairs of two, usually present themselves as children between the ages of 6 and 16, with with pale skin and obsidian black eyes. Their attire usually seems outdated or worn, but no time period can really be told by it, and there is no known way to kill them. The only possible advice I have for you is just don't let them in.
They're similar in a way to vampires, as you can only unless you allow a vampire into your home, it cannot do anything to you.
Yes. Well, let me let me touch on the vampires a little bit. So I do have a entry in my journal about vampires as well. They're more like your storybook vampires, where they need to be let in. traditional vampires, that's not always the case.
At least from what I was able to gather, they are very similar in vampires, as you have to let them in order for them to do anything.
Yeah. So one of the theories I have on these is that they're possibly an Akiri. I don't know if you know what an Akiri is.
The name sounds familiar, but as far as exactly what they are, I can't think of it off the top of my head. The
Uh,
name is very familiar.
okay, so an Akiri is a type of demon, but unlike most, Akiris do not need to take the form, or Akiris can take the form of a human without the need for possessing of a vessel. They can shapeshift, usually taking the form of a child, and they will reveal their true form when they are about to kill their prey. They are also super strong and said to be able to tear apart a body with ease. They are also super quick and often appearing as a blur when they move, and they are only vulnerable to salt and iron.
Hmm.
But they usually present themselves as a small child with obsidian black eyes.
I think I found it.
Okay.
Uh, here, here's something interesting. In the report that I am reading, the two cryptids spoke in a sing-song voice. Oh, give me 1 second, guys. I am sorry about that interruption, guys.
No worries at all.
But from what I am reading, from what the eyewitness has put up here, when they allowed these things into their home, they always spoke in like a sing-song voice, like they were always singing along. Um, Apparently the cats were afraid of them, trying to see if what actually happened.
I'm not really sure how much I've heard about that. Um, that specific encounter, and I've done a lot of research on these guys.
Yeah, I'll have to send you the link to this. Apparently the husband got dizzy when they were allowed into the house.
That does track with most of the. Hold on 1 second. I'm clipping over here. That should be a little better. Much better. Um, yeah, but that does sound very similar to what a lot of the encounters I've read about have said, that, usually somebody in the house will get dizzy if they're allowed in, but can't really place why. I've also heard from some encounters that the lights will go out or the power will go out if they're allowed in.
Yeah, apparently the husband's nose also started to bleed randomly after they noticed the kid's eyes were black.
Hmm.
That is something I've not heard before from them. This is the
No.
first time I have heard reports that they are ghost-like, but not that they can just randomly cause injury without, like, not that they can just cause injury without doing anything.
I do see that you had found a sorry about that. I do see that you have found a instance where a driver had been going home from work and he stopped at a gas station to get some fuel and have one show up at his driver's side door and ask for a ride home.
From what I was able to learn from that, he never allowed it into his vehicle and he just drove off when he noticed that its eyes were black. And from, if I remember correctly, the report said that the child involved was around 15 years old in age, or it appeared to be.
Yeah, that tracks with a lot of the lore. Like I said, they usually present themselves as children between the ages of 6 to 16.
Yeah, some reports I've heard 18.
I've heard a couple
But
of those, but not very many.
another thing I'm reading from this is the children randomly said that their parents were home and abruptly left the house. The owners of the house looked out the window and saw two men standing by a black vehicle at the end of their driveway, where the children walked into the car and they drove off.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
usually
that's a
the
new one.
yeah, that is a new one. I've never heard of that happening before, but usually the excuse that they use to try to get in your house is that they need to call their parents. They need to use the phone so that they can call their parents.
And in this instance, it looks like they actually got a hold of whoever they were trying to contact. Well, but it does say that they were wearing black suits. It doesn't say that they were bald or wearing shade. So it doesn't seem, the only thing that seems reminiscent of what is called the Men in Black. The only thing that's reminiscent is the black vehicle and the suit.
Hmm.
Every other every other instance of Men in Black I have heard are that all of them are bald and they all wear shades to hide their eyes.
That is very interesting. I had never heard that experience either.
This is the first one that I've heard. Uh, Apparently, as it goes on over the next few months, three of their cats went missing, and apparently her husband started getting cancer.
That is one of the things that I've heard is that usually after you're visited by black-eyed children, if you do survive to tell the tale, usually tragedy strikes your family in several ways over several years.
As far as what this incident shows, the husband didn't die from it, but it says he has an aggressive skin cancer.
Okay.
And apparently he had dry nasal pathogens or passages which could have resulted in the nosebleeds, but even before the two children showed up. That could be the case. But it's very weird that after they showed up and their power went out, that he started having dizzy spells and nosebleeds and all of a sudden got cancer.
Yeah, and it could just be that the with the nosebleeds, it could just be that that just happened to
Happened when
coincide with the visit.
yeah, it could have just happened when these two showed up at the house. From what I'm reading, the only thing that it says how old these two were was about 8.
Okay.
So that does kind of fit with the age range. I don't know how to think about this. This is a very short report on what happened, but this is one of the few that I have seen of someone letting them in their house. And they do mention a specific name, but they don't call them black-eyed children. They call them the Mennonite kids.
I've heard that name a couple times. Usually they are referred to as the black-eyed children, but I've never really been able to confirm that they are one and the same.
This is the first time I'm hearing of the Mennonite kids, so that's something I'm gonna have to look into.
Yeah, maybe we can do like a second episode if after we both look into that and see if we can in fact confirm that they are one and the same.
Yeah, that it would be interesting because this is very weird that I'm seeing one cryptid that they mentioned be connected to another. But then again, that's happened with a couple others. The one I can think of off the top of my head is the water babies that are in the U.S. and the kelpie from Scotland and Ireland.
Yes. So, do you know when the origin of the black-eyed children was actually or at least when people say that the origin of the stories of the black-eyed children have been from?
From what information I have gotten, it was between the 1980s to present day.
Yes. Yeah, so I've seen that most sources indicate that the legend originated in 1996, but some people have claimed that they've existed since the 80s.
Yeah, which is also where a lot of these Men in Black stories also come from, is from the 70s and 80s. So the fact that this story mentions another thing that is very weird is what appears to be two men in a black car with black suits waiting for the children to come in.
One of the things that I have read a lot about is typically most of these encounters happen on like late wintry nights. Have you been able to find any that happened during like the summer months?
It doesn't say when this in particular instance happened, but other than that, I haven't seen anything else from during the summer of sightings. Most of it was either fall or winter.
Okay.
We do have a location for where this happened. It happened in Vermont.
Okay. I've heard of a lot out like my direction up in the northern states mostly.
I haven't heard of any sightings towards where I am, which is in the south. I haven't heard much of any black eyed children sightings down here. Then again, the Appalachian Mountains have their own host of creatures that tend to be a little more gruesome than whatever these guys are. Other than a few, like what these people said, the nosebleeds and the skin cancer, these things tend to do more of psychological damage, if that makes sense, compared to some of the other stories I've heard involving other mysterious animals or cryptids, which tend to be more violent. I have not seen a case where a black eyed children has gotten physical with someone, at least not yet. Now, there was a news report, um, I think it was a few years ago, that involved a black eyed child being arrested. I don't know if this is true or not. Have you heard about that?
I have not.
Let me see if I can find it. It might be fake, but I did hear about this report. Uh, West Virginia. No, that ain't it. Hold on. Yeah, I found something, but it was a report from 2017 and it's on YouTube. Black eyed kid arrested. And it shows what appears to be a photo of a young lady with pitch black eyes.
I did just find another story I want to read to you. Let me throw this over in the Google Docs so that I can actually see it a little better. Sorry, I'm a little blind today.
Oh, you're fine. Let's see.
That's not control. That's control. Okay. It's a fairly short story of an encounter.
All right.
It almost felt like a dream. I woke up to my dog Lucy barking. She was upright on the bed, where my husband and I were sleeping with our 22-month-old daughter, staring at our door like an unknown stranger was out there rummaging around. I thought she was just freaking out over a house noise. We'd only had her for 3 months and she was still a puppy. It could have been anything: a roommate, a creak in the house settling, the awnings moving outside in the breeze. I wasn't too concerned initially. I decided the best bet would be to open the door and show her that there was nothing there. It sounds a bit silly, but it's what we do with our daughter when she gets scared. And I figured it would work on a puppy too. I opened the door and she raced to the front door. She stood there snarling at the door. It was an angry, violent growl, one I had never heard her make before. I looked groggily at her and opened the baby gate blocking the doorway, planning to open that door and show her everything was okay. The second my hand reached for the deadbolt, Lucy went wild. She started barking and jumping towards me, and when I touched the metal, she suddenly changed her temper. She whimpered, almost like she was afraid, and backing down. Her mannerisms as her mannerisms changed, so did mine. I wasn't calm anymore. My heart was racing and sinking at the same time. I had been flooded with a mixture of fear. Give me one sec. Let me mute this so that I can actually maybe get through the rest of this without any more interruptions.
Oh, you're fine. Take your time.
I had been flooded with a mixture of fear and dread. I looked through the peephole. I can't explain why I looked, but I did. Outside, there were two kids. One was just a smidgen shorter than me and didn't look much younger than me. And I'm 21. She looked to be maybe 16 or 17. She was slender and pale, and her hair was a light shade of honey blonde, and she wore it long, about mid-back, with long, thin, blunt bangs. I'm going to try that one more time. About mid-back, with long, thin, blunt bangs in the front that covered most of her eyes. She wore jeans, a light wash that's popular right now, and a thin-looking olive-colored pullover style hoodie. She held the hand of a small girl, who looked to be around 3 or 4, in the same style jeans and a button-down ivory cardigan. The smaller one looked at the floor shyly, but had the same shade of hair, tied back in a ponytail. She held a stuffed toy under her free arm, and it was identical to one that my daughter had, as was their style of dress. Had it not been for the feeling of overwhelming dread and fear, I probably would have asked these children in and given them some tea or hot chocolate to get them out of the bitter cold. Something about them seemed off. At this point, I hadn't made any noise. I hadn't shushed the dog or grumbled, nothing. I hadn't turned on any lights. These kids had no indicators that I was at the door. The older one spoke. She had a voice that was mature, confident, and strong, and accentless. She held her head tilted downward, and I couldn't see her eyes. She said, "We have to use your phone." I stood frozen in fear. How did she know that I was there? She raised her head to face me directly, and that's when I saw her eyes. There was a reason I couldn't see them through her bangs. They were black, or midnight blue, or a dark, dark purple. They were otherworldly. She said, "Our mother is worried." As someone who has always been interested in creepy stories, I knew what she was the second she looked at me, through the door. I had never been one to believe in these things. As a staunch, eth- as a st- I can read. As a staunch, as a staunch atheist and a skeptic, when it comes to the paranormal, I had written off many a ghost story from friends and family members eager to tell me their tale. I didn't believe it. Still, I couldn't rationalize my way out of this. I was standing with nothing but a thin wooden door between me and a black-eyed kid. There was no questioning what was in front of me. I did not answer her. Slowly and silently, I backed away from the door, Lucy still cowering at my ankles. She kept talking. Just let us use your phone. I took a step back, and with that step, the tone changed. At first, she seemed polite. When I took a second step back, she became commanding, almost hostile. We're not going to hurt you. If we wanted to do that, we would have just broken in. I'll ask again. May we come in and use your phone? Lucy snarled at the door, and I inched backwards. Though something inside me seemed to be slowly pulling me back toward the door. It wasn't a physical pulling so much as a subconscious need to go back and let them in. I got to my room, covered up the window, locked the door, and sat there in the dim light of the nightlight. I heard her calling me back to the door once more, and then quiet. I didn't go back to sleep that night, and I haven't slept right since. I know from reading about them that black-eyed kids can't just come in without permission. I know that they haven't hurt anyone, but I still fear I'll be an exception. When I told my husband, he said it was just a dream. He keeps telling me to forget about it. But this lingering feeling of sadness, this dread when the house is silent at night, this fear of a knock at the door, this tells me otherwise.
Huh. That is a very interesting one. I don't believe I've heard that one before.
Yeah, I just found this one on a Quora posting
Okay.
about them.
I mean, at least she made it out okay without having any other issues.
Yeah. I mean, it was smart not to let them in. Like I said, we don't really know what happens when they get let in, but I'm not
Other
really
than
going to be
like
the one. Yeah, I'm not really going to be the one to find out.
the one or two stories that have been told about them. That's about literally all we got on what they are and what they can do.
Yeah. I mean, most people's, for lack of better terms, lizard brain kind of tells them when things are off not to open the door, but
Usually, when someone does let them into the house, they do a good job at hiding their eyes,
yeah.
at least until something happens. Like in that one instance where the family goes, like when their family said, when they said, "Oh, our family is here,"
Yeah.
or "Oh, our parents are here," and they walked into that black car with what I kind of think might be the Men in Black.
I'm kind of with you on that one. It does sound very Men in Black ish.
But then that's the question: what did the government have to do with those? Because the Men in Black are supposedly a government conspiracy, and if they're the ones essentially picking up these black-eyed children, what do they do, or what are they capable of?
That's a very good question, and one that I do kind of want to know the answer to is what are they actually capable of?
Like we get small hints like apparently they cause massive bad luck or can cause random stuff to happen.
Yeah.
Like in that one story with the skin cancer, or causing lights to turn off all of a sudden and only be able to turn back on when they leave the property.
All right. Well, that's all I have on them. I don't know if you have anything else.
That's, I would say that's about everything I have. I was trying to see if there was an incident where someone let them into their vehicle, but I could not find anything on that. The only other thing is I know there was an instance where an actual person had pitch black eyes, but that wasn't normally what their eyes looked like, and I think this person died afterwards.
Hmm.
And I think it was because of severe hyperthermia or hypothermia, excuse me. Hyperthermia is death to extreme heat. Hypothermia is death to extreme cold.
Yeah.
And I think what happened is they were involved in a hurricane or something and they got trapped and they could not physically free themselves from whatever was trapping their legs, and their eyes, like they were stuck there for a few days and then their eyes started turning that black color. It was very weird. I think there's a photo somewhere,
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
but I do know the person did die due to hypothermia. Other than that last statement, I think that's everything I have on.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. And like uh like you said earlier, if you want to look into the Mennonite kids, that would be a really good episode.
Yeah, I definitely will.
So so everyone who is watching this, if you want to see an episode with Cryptic again, let us know in the comments and we will definitely start working on that Mennonite kids video.
I know we got a
But
couple others that we've talked about possibly doing together.
yeah, I got a couple I was working on. I done one of them 2 weeks ago, and that was the roping.
Yeah, I know we also talked about doing my channel's mascot, the Yeti.
Yes, we need to work on that too. I have not started on that one.
I haven't either.
But if y'all enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out Cryptic's channel. A link to his will be in the description down below. And as always, we will see you all next time.
See you guys.